At 9:09, getting into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this hour, and we'll be going into, of course, another conversation. And as we do that this morning, you want to buy a house, and I say that today, but then we talk about mortgages, and when we hear the word mortgage, CT, some of us get, tired. It's interesting because, or rather, we feel weak. It's interesting because the word mortgage itself has an element of death. But okay. You wanted to tell us something about how we can actually get these mortgages in.
I really don't know what sort of mortgages you deal with or you come across. I mean...
Well, the word more, unfortunately,
you think of morbidity.
No, it's
surely, mortgage.
You need to look at what it means. Anyway,
yes.
Moving on.
Do is right.
Thanks.
I am aware she's right, but of all the things she could choose, did she need to be so morbid? Anyway...
So in this case, the kind of mortgage that we're talking about is not the one that actually binds you from its original, meaning. This one is not too difficult, is it?
No, it isn't. But the thing you must bear in mind is when you talk to people whose chronological inclination is the same as mine, morbidity is not a topic that we enjoy. we like to use lighter stuff.
I'll be sure to talk rainbows and bunnies.
No, please start
moving
with
forward.
Start with Ugali. That's the memo for
the
the day. Yes.
No, Ugali will mention we're talking to our guests because they
have accompaniments.
They deal in Ugali. Yes,
they have accompaniments.
Yeah, the form is called Unga. Then they have other things that go with it. The fear of being told you're not eligible for a mortgage should dissipate. Why? Well, the choice is very simple. If you do not take the step to try and figure out whether you can actually get one or not, how will you know that you're able to? Diamond Trust Bank says, look, we have a plan. The plan is fairly simple. If you are employed, you have a pay slip, you are a business person, or you're in the diaspora, let's start with the diaspora, we can offer you a mortgage of up to 80%. If you are employed or you're in business, we can do you one better by offering you a mortgage of up to 105%. If the time of repayment that you prefer is 10 years, then we will offer you that mortgage at very simple 9%. If you want 25 years, it'll be 9.75. But we want you to also understand, that's what Diamond Trust Bank is saying, that we don't have hidden charges. We're not going to penalize you in case you've decided to sort of like hurry up your payment and pay early. No, that we don't do that. But if you feel that what I'm saying doesn't make sense, well, let's do this. Go to a Diamond Trust branch somewhere near you and make inquiries. If you don't have one, then why don't you just email them to mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
And somebody's going to be there to help you.
They will respond, and they'll respond to your questions.
Fantastic.
Yes.
We've just come off an hour-long conversation about, the impact that the KCB 2G program is having around Kenya. Give us some of those pointers again, Mark.
If you're among the 1 million plus people who come out of various stages of school and looking to enter the job market, or you happen to be working but you don't have the right paperwork, you're a spanner boy but you don't have a certificate that says you can be a good mechanic, etc. KCB has an answer for you through its Tuajiri program. So what does it do? One, it offers you vocational training at your nearest TVET for the course you like. So if you want to be a mechanic, a seamstress, a chef, as the lady who's just left, KCB has the answer for you. But they will not leave you there. You know what they will do? They will also give you the necessary business training, accounting, how to count your monies, how to budget, how to market, how to brand yourself. Very important. And then they don't leave you there. They go ahead and then they give you something called a package, a KCB package, starter kit that you get to use in your business to make sure that you are profitable in what you do. Then they're still also willing to lend you the capital you need to start up your business. Honestly, what are you waiting for? Like CT said, go to kcbgroup/foundation and prove whether what I'm saying is true.
There you go.
ASAP.
All right. And as we get into a conversation for this hour, we're talking to some of our good friends at Naivas. And this morning, joining us in the hot seats, Tim Kajume is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Naivas. And Andreas von Paleske is the Chief of Strategy with Naivas, and we're here this morning to go into, a lot of brand information, getting to know more about this brand, and then also, its penetration in the market, and, plans for the future. So, yay goodies. CT obviously wants to be sure that there will always be unga on the shelves. But, that could be a sidebar conversation. But welcome both of you to the Situation Room this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And we want to welcome you quickly with today's proverb. And you can tell us again quickly how you would translate that and what it would mean to you. And then we can get into it. CT?
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week ending tomorrow from the Republic of Djibouti, whose capital city is Djibouti City, whose population is just 1 million plus. Lovely country, though. The Horn of Africa. The proverb: clouds do not always mean rain, but smoke is a sure sign of fire.
Tim?
Thank you. Glad to be here. That's an interesting proverb. In Kenya we say where there is smoke, there is fire.
We do.
So that is as certain as there is. But sometimes, so I think basically what the proverb means is not everything we see seems to be what it is. Or we could see a certain situation and we think it's taking a certain trajectory. Because sometimes we see clouds, we all assume it's going to rain, and it quickly passes away. But there are certain signs that when you see, you most definitely know what the end product is going to be.
Okay.
Oh, okay. What about you, Andreas?
I'd second what Tim has just said. I'd say every cloud has a silver lining. I know in some parts of the world rain is a good thing. It's not always perceived to be a good thing. So I think sometimes we see clouds and we see a negative, but I'd like to think there's something positive that might be there. So not every cloud may mean something negative.
Well, there you go.
Absolutely.
All right. And, just reintroducing us to this brand that we've all come to know over the last, many years, and that's Naivas. And then getting into, what the Naivas brand has grown to be. Maybe we can just, tell us again where we are. The last time you were here, Andreas, you had just opened your 100th store in Kenya. And now going towards next week, as you said, 110. So something is going well, isn't it?
No, look, thank you, and I really enjoyed the conversation when I was here last. Naivas has been around since 1990, so we've been around for close to 35 years now. During that time, we've grown tremendously across the country. 100 stores when we were here was no small feat, and we've continued to grow. And I think what's been really important for us as a business is that we grow sustainably. And we do that by ensuring we serve our customers really well. We look after our staff and our suppliers and all of our stakeholders well, and really grow in partnership with everyone. And I think that's what stood the test of time for us.
So, from a point of view, Tim, when we are saying that, it's grown, obviously it's grown with people,
Yes.
and it's grown with resources to be able to move this along. What has that journey been like, involving folks in the growth?
Interesting, but challenging. We are now just about 12,000 employees. Managing 12,000 employees is no mean feat. And not just, as Andrea said, it's taking care of the employees. So it's not just about recruiting people, it's about developing them and about taking care of our employees. So it's been an interesting journey. Arguably one of Kenya's largest employers with 12,000 employees. And we look forward to growing probably double that in the next couple of years. Yeah.
Okay. So, let's look at the market in terms of, how the spread has been and what you've then been able to provide to Kenyans. And not just Kenyans, but anybody living within the boundaries of Kenya and doing the shopping here. And what have you been able to see that was necessary to be able to push this growth to the point that it did, that it has achieved?
Our mission is to provide a world-class shopping experience. And I think since the founding of the business and as we've evolved as a business, we've tried to really stay true to that. That's meant we've had to continue to evolve. I spoke about it last time. Continue to evolve in terms of what customers want, in terms of the ambience in our stores, offering a broad selection of fresh items. I think really exciting customers and making what can sometimes be perceived as a boring experience, the weekly, monthly shop, a little bit more exciting for our customers, both in terms of the experience and, of course, importantly, in terms of the value that we offer.
You know, for someone whose experience with you is born out of necessity, I need to shop because probably I've been instructed to go and shop.
As often happens.
I've often wondered when I walk into a supermarket, what is the thinking behind where you place all the wares you have in the supermarket from the time I enter? How you decide about the process of deciding the space you must have between the shelves that you have, and how it is you also decide on what it is you are going to be known for as opposed to other things, and what it is that you are going to sell. Because there are businesses similar to yours where you go to and they indicate that they have, say, for instance, a hardware section, and you go and find nails and a hammer. It represents some form of hardware, but you'd expect some pipes, some ropes, a little more. What is it that makes you decide? What are the determinants of this process that I've just described?
Good question. So I think you as a shopper are really interested in getting what you want at the right price and getting it quickly and getting out. Yes. Because you're probably not interested in dwelling in the supermarket or in any retail outlet really for that long. So the fact that you've started to walk into one of our shops, that's a good thing for us. So we've won the first battle. We've managed to bring you into our brand, and we're very grateful for that. It's then our job to try and tempt you into buying perhaps some additional things and putting some additional items into your basket. So yes, we provide you with the essentials, but we know you'll go looking for those. So when you walk into one of our stores, you'll see an abundance of fruit and vegetable,
Yes.
some freshly baked items. Those are clearly there to one, of course, create an ambience that we provide very good quality products. We're very proud of what we do in our fresh departments, but it's also to entice you as a customer, to maybe tempt you to buying that piece of cake or that donut that perhaps you didn't intend or that wasn't on your shopping list, but perhaps given the quality of what we have on offer, you might be tempted to put it into your basket.
So when we think about a supermarket brand, we think about that more often than not. What is available to shoppers, without looking at the back end in terms of who is working in the beehive, as it were, to make sure that these things happen. So Tim, you seem to have some kind of control over how that happens, and how then has this 12,000 man, woman strong force then been able to come together over the years?
Yeah, as you said, what you see is just a tip of the iceberg. Most people walk into a supermarket, and as Andreas has described, you just see this very well laid out store, everything in the right place and so on. But the logistics behind it, the science that goes behind it, you're looking at a whole army of people who support for that to work. The same thing like we are here in studio. You've got a whole army of people who are making sure that we are live and all that. So we've got some of our most critical departments. One of them is commercial. These are the people who ensure we have the right products, what the customers want, how they're displayed, and so on. Then we've got supply chain. Supply chain are the ones who ensure that the products move from whether it is the supplier, the manufacturer, and so on, into our warehouses, from our warehouses, into our stores. And that's actually one of our biggest departments. Then you've got other support functions. We've got HR, you've got IT. You can imagine every time you go into a shop, everything is IT based, from the POS to everything you see on display and everything. We have a whole IT department that ensures that everything, all your transactions are done correctly, the pricing is done correctly, and so on. We've got the HR team that supports the 12,000 employees. We've got a legal team. We've got an admin team. So all these teams have to work in tandem with each other to ensure that world-class experience that we are giving to our employees is actually world-class.
Yeah.
So that when you walk into that store, it is seamless. From the time you get in to the time that you leave the store, the experience that you're getting is indeed world-class. Yeah.
Just a quick question. You talked about your 12,000 employees and your desire to improve them. Just give us in a nice package. If I'm looking for a job and I fit in those categories, be it supply chain, be it IT, etc., why would I choose Naivas as an employer? What makes you head and shoulders above the rest?
Good question. Especially within the retail space. For the longest time, retail has always been perceived as what I would call blue-collar jobs, or like people who didn't require huge qualifications. Most people always perceived retail as a big kiosk,
Yes.
if I may put it that way.
And it isn't.
It's a kiosk with shelves.
It's a kiosk with shelves. So what has happened over the years, it has really evolved. All right, everything is scientific, data-driven, and so on. So what makes us apart, number one, is cutting-edge technology. So what you are trying to describe, what Muga was asking, how do you ensure that, how do we know what we put there is what you require, and the process that Andreas described? There's a science that goes into that. Now, as you know, we've been the pioneers of some interesting shop experience in this country. And so when we talk about innovation, we are leading when it comes into retail. So that's one of the aspects that we provide. Secondly is the experience that we give to our employees. Number one, the culture that we have at Naivas is, as opposed to what retail has been, where it is almost like, Anyapara kind of old style with a foreman and with a stick, and or some shops where somebody is standing and making sure that everybody, or you in your station and so on. So we have got a culture where people are accountable, people are loyal to their business, and this has come from our own leaders. When the MD started this business, the kind of culture that he inculcated with the staff. So culture, the processes that we have in terms of innovation, the kind of benefits that we give to our employees. We've got very robust employee welfare programs for our staff.
Can we talk about those?
Sure. Number one, when 12,000 employees providing a medical cover for them and their staff is not a small thing, and we do that. And we've partnered with our employees and our partners when it comes to healthcare to make sure that is provided. Number two, we've got insurance for our employees. Talk about WIBA, group life, and so on. We've got a mental wellness program where we've partnered with one of the major counseling houses in Kenya to ensure that our employees have have an avenue in case they need to just talk to somebody, they need to vent out. We support them and their families in case of things like bereavement or any unfortunate events. They can always go to our counseling partner, be able to talk to them, even their own personal issues, marital and so on. As you will appreciate, 65% of our employees are below the age of 35. So they fall within the youth bracket. So we are not immune to certain things like stress, and a few people who've got marital or personal issues, a little bit of probably alcoholism here and there, gambling, which is a big problem as well. But we've managed to overcome that and actually take people for things like rehabilitation and counseling, and people have reformed and come back to work and have been very productive within the workforce. So the other welfare employee programs that we have, we've got very regular employee engagement forums, which are run, they're almost what you'd call kamkunjis, which are representatives from the shops,
Yeah.
then they pick representatives at the next level, coming all the way to the regional levels. And it is where they can be able to come and air out their issues. They talk, and whatever issues that they have, they can be able to air them out, and they can be able to bring those up into management level for discussion and to be resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm listening to you. Like, 12,000 people, like you say, it's a lot of people to be able to, take care of, essentially.
Yes.
And when you have big numbers like that, the issues of long hours, issues of mistreatment, labor issues come into play, and people say, well, we're working forever, kind of thing. How do you keep a handle on some of those things?
Thanks. Number one, we make sure that we comply to the labor laws. Not only comply, but we've actually gone over and above. We do not only comply to the local labor laws, but we are actually now in the process, because we've got a very robust ESG program that is, we are benchmarked against some world standards. So we are actually working on ILO standards.
Okay.
So when it comes to things like working hours, we actually comply. Our employees actually, in retail, is not 8 hours as most people think it is 8 hours. It's actually 7.5 hours in a day. So
7.5.
7.5 hours.
Why wasn't it 7.25?
Or just 7.
Or 7. Well, to be honest,
You don't know.
that is what is on the labor laws in terms of the regulation of wages and so on. So for retail, it's at 7.5 hours. So we ensure that our staff comply to that.
That includes a break during the day?
Yes.
Okay.
7.5 hours. And then anything over and above that is considered as overtime.
Okay.
So what we do, things like long working hours. So what we do is we know what our peak seasons are. And anytime we've got peak seasons, we pick employees to be able to cover in. For example, now when we had all the way from November to December coming into January, those are some of our heavy trading periods. We ensured that we've got surplus or more people who we recruited to be able to cover up for the long working hours, so the way the shifts are done. The other thing you talked about was, other than the long working hours,
When we're talking about like the breaks that you take, the issues that people would normally complain about in a big space like that, like mistreatment, and say, well, taking care of overtime, which you've already mentioned, but
Yes.
then how do you deal with some of those other issues whereby you're dealing with, I can imagine a myriad of problems across board.
now things like mistreatment, we have a zero tolerance to mistreatment of our employees of any nature.
What does that mean when you say zero tolerance?
What we mean is anybody found culpable of either mistreatment, harassment, intimidation of other employees, we have a serious disciplinary process, and which leads even to termination of employees. We do not condone any harassment of any nature. And this is a message that has been passed from the top, from the MD himself. And he says, irrespective of who it is in the business, because remember, our employees are our biggest assets. And what we believe in is we take care of our employees will take care of our customers.
Yes.
Now, our customers then will take care of our profits. Now, if you go to our stores, Muga, and you're mistreated, what does that mean? It means that you're not going to come back to our stores. You're going to tell your family members not to come back. What does that do to our brand? What does that do to our business? So we ensure that our employees have a conducive work environment. So one of the things that we have is we have a robust grievance mechanism process where employees can be able to report any natures of grievances, harassment, intimidation, and so on. And each of these cases is investigated. And if anybody is found culpable, then disciplinary measures are taken.
Okay.
Are we going to a break?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I should hold on to the question.
Please just hold on to the question.
Okay.
While I mention some things for you, lemon biscuit, strawberry, pear caramel, vanilla.
Gentlemen would know these.
Are you getting hungry?
Yes.
Yeah? How about we take a traffic break with Delamere, which incidentally you can find at Naivas, at many other outlets as well. So how about we take a break with that? It's breakfast on the go. It's a great a post-workout snack, which CT, incidentally, you told me that you just get back on the exercise wheel. Sorry, I've outed you out to the world. So you can now grab a bottle of this after your workout today, cup of this after your workout today, and you can go to Naivas and actually get one of those if you need to. Fantastic flavors with real fruit in them, and we're taking that break with Delamere. You can pick one up at various outlets around the city, and it really is your moment with great yogurt with real fruit and other real ingredients in them, and it's your breakfast on the go, it's your lunch on the go, it's your post-workout snack, or something that is definitely going to get you to say, Delamere. You know, other resources are working in tandem. CT.
You know, the human resource bit, Tim isn't lying, because I was going to ask him, how do you train these people? They're actually very good. You actually do end up buying more than you actually thought you'd buy. I have had the experience. I'm quite happy with what I've bought, and someone says, but, you know, have you considered this? And I'm saying, no, actually I haven't. And I ask, why should I consider it? Then they'll explain to you why you should consider it. And if you think you've escaped it, but okay, what about this? You know, you could actually consider this. What process do you use in determining three things? 1, pricing. That's 1. 2, location. 3, the commodities that you have. Because there are things that you have in more abundance than other supermarkets that I've been to.
You're asking us to open up all of our secrets.
Yes.
No, yeah, it is the situation room.
I'm merely saying, be as vague as you like, but at least give us an indication as to the thinking behind. Because it isn't possible to have the outlets you have if customers did not like what it is that you do.
Absolutely. It starts and ends with our customers.
Yes.
So a lot of what we do before we ever open a store or before we launch a product actually begins with understanding our customers and doing a lot of consumer research. And that starts with asking customers questions. It's looking at data, of course, that we have in terms of what's selling and what isn't selling. But it's also asking questions in the street, people who are exiting our stores, and getting their feedback. And really, that's very important for us because, of course, consumer habits change all the time. So that understanding goes to what we sell. It definitely goes to what price do we sell things at. We look at our data, we understand what price points may work. We see sales slip off, we understand actually maybe the pricing is a bit high and we have to adjust it. So we monitor our data continuously to assess that. But we also use consumer insight to understand where we should locate a store. That may be, there is a big urban conurbation already today, where we say this is an absolute no-brainer. You know, if you go to places like Kilimani, Lavington, there are a lot of people and a lot of high-rises there. But it may also be, if you look at the store that we're about to open in Tartu City, something that's future-proof, something where we're saying, actually, yes, there is good demand today, but actually we see this area really growing in the future, and we want to be there when people move to the area. So I think there's a very high degree of science in terms of determining all of those aspects that you asked, the price, what we sell, and where we locate our stores. And it changes continuously. You'll find that products that worked for us in the past no longer work for us today, and vice versa. Consumer habits change, and we have to bring new products onto our shelves. In terms of commodities, which of course is a very relevant point or a very relevant question for our customers, especially in hard times, I think it's about two things. It's about offering the choice in terms of the product that people may want, but most importantly, it's about offering it at a price that they can afford.
Just a quick one. In the influx of online buying and things like that, what is your strategy as head of strategy to answer the question that there are some products that are not on Kenyan shelves? Kenyans desire them because they've seen them on YouTube or wherever. What is your answer in terms of strategy of being able to meet the needs of the aspirational Kenyan?
A very good question, and we look at that all the time. I think it's worth remembering we're a mass market retailer, so we look at serving people's everyday needs, and to the extent that there are products that people, maybe that's a breakfast cereal, maybe that's a yogurt, something, to the extent that people demand it, there's enough demand for it, we will absolutely stock it and ensure that we can provide it to the customer. If it's a more niche product, chances are maybe some other retailer may be more suited to providing that product, because that doesn't really fit into our supermarket strategy. But broadly speaking, again, it very much depends. We are guided by our customers. Our customers tell us what they'd like, and if we think the demand is big enough, we will absolutely look to stock it.
So, for example, some of us would want, let's say, lactose-free milk, specialized. In fact, this is actually a practical problem. This is a true story. Sugar-free drinks, right? Those can be scarce and far between. So demand like that, how does that happen? Because I can tell you, you've got 2-3 customers here.
So as I was saying, we really try and listen to our customers attentively. Of course, we also partner with our suppliers, so the people that bring the products to us. So it's about having a continuous dialogue, really trying to stay on top of what the pulse in the market is. And you're absolutely right. The whole free from is a niche but very fast growing segment. It's very important to a lot of our customers, and in fact we have dedicated spaces in our stores that provide that.
Right.
How do you give the customers that you have an opportunity to tell you about the experience directly? Because I was looking at the social media when I talked about the service that I get. One of the listeners who's online told me I am lying, that the customer service that they probably have had in Naivas was unpleasant. And the thing about social media is people tend to be as rude as they possibly can be. See, my experience was good. Clearly, this particular customer didn't have a good experience. So how do you provide an opportunity where that can be communicated, whether the experience is actually good or bad? Yes.
Absolutely. And first of all, I'm obviously very sorry to hear that this particular individual didn't have a good experience with us. As Tim was saying earlier, we stand and fall with our reputation. And that really is very much driven by how you experience our service in stores, and something that we really strive for in terms of excellence. But we have to accept we're not perfect, and sometimes we get it wrong. We have various ways of getting in touch. Of course, social media is incredibly popular, and a lot of people reach out through our own channels and their own channels in terms of giving feedback, both good and bad. Yeah. And we listen to that actively, and we compile that, and we look at what the feedback on social media is, and we take that on board in terms of devising our strategy. There are forums in store, and in fact there are customer feedback books in store. So if you have a bad experience or a good experience, which we hope to be the case most of the time, you can actually give that feedback directly in store. But we also have an email address. So there are various ways of getting in touch with the business. And we listen to that very intently because, as I was saying when I was last here, Kenyan customers are very demanding. That doesn't always make our job easy, but actually we enjoy that because it makes us better as a business. And so we relish getting that feedback because we want to improve.
How then do you translate that to then the folks who are, again, working in the back end, or the folks who are at the till, or the folks at customer care? How then do you, bleed that kind of information across board so that everybody's on the same page? We're human beings, so you wouldn't expect everybody every day to have a smile on their face for the 7.5 hours that they're working. Yeah. But how then do you pass that message across so that everybody is essentially on the same page?
As I said earlier, it's about the culture. So it starts with the end in mind. What is it that we want to achieve? And that is excellence. And that then now gets cascaded downwards into now the various departments that support the stores. One, we start by the kind of training that we give our employees. From the day they get onboarded, the kind of training that they get, and continuous training. And one of the things that we do is for you to move from one position to another, we conduct rigorous assessments. Okay. It is not just we think you're good at your job, so we are now promoting you. No, you still have to have the right attitude, aptitude for you to be able to handle that particular job. And we do continuous training for the staff. The other way that we ensure that happens is we've got monthly, let me call them audits, where we've got a team that goes around all our stores and measures each store using 7 parameters that we've put in place as a business to ensure that excellence is standardized. So they go into any of our stores and they're able to audit, and it audits from everything from the look and feel of how the store is, including the employees. And each store is mapped with what we call RAG. So it's either red, amber, or green. So if you're in green, then we know that you're doing something good. If you're on amber, then we tell you there are a few areas that you need to correct. If you're on red, then we put in corrective measures, include sending in, we've got what we call coaches for different areas, and a coach would move in and be able to work with that particular store on the areas that they are red or amber to ensure that the standards are improved. And what happens is that this assessment, this monthly assessment, is what eventually goes into the incentives that we give. Sike, one of the things that I didn't mention is we also give bonuses to our staff. Right?
Bonus is what exactly?
It's exactly that, performance bonuses.
Okay.
Cash.
Cash. Yes.
At the end of the year,
Yes.
based on the performance of the business,
Yes.
and our employees know that if we perform well, if we hit our numbers, if we hit our budgets, then there is some incentive that comes. And not just, so we give bonuses. We also have branch competitions, so we know which is the best branch in this parameter, and they get to win mbuzis, and they get to win other prizes as well. And we also give, at the end of the year, we give shopping vouchers to everybody in the business. This last December, staff got about 10,000 shillings each as a shopping voucher, just to appreciate the good work that they have done.
This business is well thought out, isn't it?
My friend, 10,000. Everybody.
And there are 12,000 employees. I've done the maths.
Yeah. That's. Let me tell you, please, if you're listening, Naivas is saying that they are good employers, and you need to. When is the next application window?
It's continuous.
It is continuous. Yeah. So can we say that as you project the future, that the situation for your employees is only going to get better, and you're going to further strengthen these measures that you put down to really secure the future of your employees?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely.
So of course, with that number, then, so what there would come challenges, right?
Yes.
So things like employee turnover.
Yes.
How have you been able to deal with that over the last few years? Is it high? And if so, how do you then deal with issues of staff retention? And then with the rolling, take on of more employees, how do you balance all of this?
Interestingly, our attrition rate in comparison to the number, the total headcount, is very low.
Okay.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were saying, the kind of benefits, the kind of value that we give our employees. So as compared to probably within the same industry, we would say we are heads and shoulders above others in quite a number of parameters. And therefore, you find then attrition rate is low. Secondly, and most important, is that we are in the business of also building careers. We just not want people to just come and think, I'm just here for a short period of time and leave. So we try to even encourage our employees. We've got employees who've been in the business for 25 years, close to 30 years. Others actually have been there for 30 years since the first store was opened. And the bulk of our employees have actually been in the business for more than 5 years. So we've grown rapidly in the last 4 years. So we've taken in quite a lot of employees, and we are seeing most of them actually want to build a career in retail, and in specific with Naivas, in comparison to other players in the same industry.
Okay. So when you look at that, you have to then ask what your projection is, and I guess this is a strategy question as well, because if you're talking, 110 stores, you're looking at 12,000 strong, employee pack. How far can you go?
How high is high? It's interesting. I've been with the business for 8 years. At the time, we had around 30 stores. We thought getting to 60 stores was a big win, doubling from then. We're at 110. It's always so hard to predict. I think the one thing that really stands out for us is we've grown sustainably. There's obviously some history in the retail space in Kenya, but when I say sustainably, I mean that we've been able to open those branches profitably from our own cash resources. And we've been able to employ people, we've been able to stock the shelves. And so the first thing that we ask ourselves is, can we afford to open a store? Will that store be profitable? I think that's more important than chasing a particular number. If you asked our MD, he'd say 200 is his next target. And we're all gearing for that. We're very excited about that. I'd hate to put a time frame to that because I think it's about getting to the 200 in the right way, as opposed to just chasing a number for number's sake.
Are there any counties in this country that does not have a Naivas store?
Yes.
Why?
Strategy.
The hot potato and throw it back to Andrea.
I think some for historical reasons in terms of the location. We had a store in Garissa some time back. We no longer have a store there. But I think for us, it's not about is one country more important than another. It's purely around where do we see the demand for our product? Where can we open a store profitably? We're here to serve all Kenyans across the demographic spectrum. We are not focused on a particular Kenyan to say, actually, this customer with this income is who we're serving. We're here for everyone. We're very proud of the fact that I think everybody feels comfortable walking to one of our stores. And so when the opportunity presents itself anywhere in Kenya, as long as we can open that store and we feel that we can open it profitably and ensure that that store will be there for the foreseeable future, we will do so.
Okay. So if we look at the way... we can have this conversation, but we can't have it void of taking into consideration what the market looks like, isn't it? And I like the fact that you talk about a sustainable manner in which expansion will take place. But then we can't ignore what we've seen in the market before with what I have now coined for myself as the curse of the supermarket chain, whereby there have been quite a number that have fallen by the wayside because of different issues, right? And sadly, we have too many of an example in the market to ignore. So with the sustainable growth that you speak of, what are those definite markers that you put in place to avoid what, again, would help us, would perhaps bring us closer to the mouth of this, abyss?
So I'm here to speak about Naivas today, obviously, but I think if we step back and just look at the retail sector overall, I would argue it is in a much healthier state today than it was 5 or 6 years ago. So I think Kenyan retail has come a long way. There was a time, I think in the 2010s, when you would argue actually things were a bit dire, one chain after another ran into trouble. That hasn't been the case for a while. So I would argue, whilst we may lead the pack, it's not just us. I think the overall sector has started to get its act together, has worked better perhaps with suppliers in partnership. And so if you look at the sector today, I think it's in a much more stable place than it was in the past.
Does this do retailers in their own right contribute to this sustainability that we speak of,
or is it the lack of that sustainability?
Right, because you can say it's a safer space, and one would imagine that it's the players in the space that contribute to make it a safer space to operate in, because then what you do is that you do this great stuff and then you get all of us hooked, and then we don't want to be met with a situation whereby, okay, then one day we're going to open our eyes and then it's not there. But do you contribute to making that space safer to operate in?
Absolutely. There is a retail trade association in Kenya, RETRAC, run by a very capable lady called Wambui. And I think she's done a phenomenal job at rallying retailers in the market, bringing them together and driving that sustainability agenda in partnership with suppliers. You'll recall in the past when there have been challenges, of course, a lot of suppliers may have lost out, they lost faith in the space. And so I think the overall association, the overall, especially the larger players, have done a great job at bringing everyone together and driving that, bearing in mind, of course, everybody's in it for themselves and everybody wants to grow their own brand. But as I said earlier, I think if you look at the space now, we're in a much, much better place.
There's Kenya and then there's East Africa.
CT wants, when he goes to Uganda, to be able to find an Naivas. This is the way he's going about answering that question, Tim.
They know exactly what I asked.
Especially if there is a lot mentioning names.
Without mentioning specific
Yes,
locations.
not being
Yeah. I'll answer one part, and maybe Andreas could probably add some substance to it. At the moment, we are just in Kenya. I'm not ruling out maybe sometime in the future. We may see a Naivas in one of those cities that you don't want to name.
like Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam, yes.
Yeah, but at the moment, we are in Kenya.
Absolutely right. What I would add is, currently our shareholders include the largest Mauritian conglomerate, IBL. IBL itself has a retail business in Mauritius. So we have a sister company, a supermarket chain called Winners in Mauritius. So in that sense, perhaps as part of a broader business, we are already
In East Africa.
In more than one country. We absolutely have ambitions to grow. I think right now there is so much still to do in Kenya. We're excited about the opportunity in Kenya, growing in Kenya. But absolutely, there are some very exciting countries on our doorstep. And I think when the time is right, we would love to be the first retail chain to make it a success in those markets.
Well, I mean, it's great stuff that's happening, and we're always glad that, come and have this conversation with us, looking at Naivas and its expansion, looking at the market, and being able to understand, where you firmly placed growth and sustainability in the Kenyan economy, and also serving customers across the country. And we're looking forward to, Dar es Salaam. Tim Kajume is the Chief Human Resource Officer with Naivas, and Andreas von Peleski is the Chief of Strategy with Naivas. Thank you so much for being here this morning, and we're looking forward to future conversations with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation today. And even as you go about your business, remember that you can make payments from business to business with Virtual FX. So you don't have to worry about expensive fees. You don't have to worry about hidden charges. You also don't have to worry about maybe your money won't get there. 190 countries is a platform across which you can make these payments in 49 different currencies. And you can do that and find out more